It has been 1 month since I started my dream life experiment, and the plan has already gone to shit. Nonetheless, I have taken some really big steps toward my goals that I've been wanting to for months, and this helped me to finally do them. In the process, I collected 70 pages worth of data on myself, all of my thoughts and actions, and then I went back and studied those to understand what actually worked when it came to getting unstuck and into action. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm breaking this video up into 2 parts, so the first one will be all about unexpected things that I learned while taking these action steps, and then the second part will be actionable advice about what genuinely helped me to get the ball rolling and to take those first steps. This is especially for people who, like me, struggle with overthinking and procrastination and getting in your own way. Maybe you just feel stuck or behind, and if you watch my first video, you know that I've dealt with a lot of trauma, debilitating depression, PTSD, ADHD, all the things. And even though so many of us deal with trauma and mental health issues, we don't talk enough about their impact on our journey of changing our lives and reaching our goals. And the process might look a little bit different after that, and that's okay. Personally, I was tired of the same old advice out there saying, just do it, just break down your goals into the smallest steps and just start there. Basically, anything that starts with just never actually worked for me, so this video is about what did. So let's get started. The first interesting lesson I wanted to share is that action can be both unexpected and unplanned, and that's okay. It's really okay not to have a plan. What I noticed in the first weeks of this experiment was that I was trying to have everything perfectly planned out, and I wanted to know what my goals were and when I was doing what. How many videos would I record this week? How many podcast episodes? What was I going to do for social media? But what I noticed that was doing for me, instead of motivating me, was it was making me feel so overwhelmed, and it was causing me to try to have everything perfectly mapped out before taking action. What worked instead was acting on the idea as soon as it came to me. That happened multiple times with big action steps this month, and it kind of surprised me because they were things that I had been wanting to do for a while and hadn't gotten myself to do. In case you didn't watch my first video, I am in the middle of a year-long experiment to get from where I am now, where I live with my parents. I'm basically broke, and I'm working a job as a German translator that I don't love, to my big goals of reaching financial abundance, moving into my dream apartment, and traveling and building multiple successful businesses as I go. In this first month, I posted my first YouTube video, I booked a trip to Bali, I built my website and created my first paid offer for my community manifestation besties. I did daily mindset work, daily tracking of my observations. All of that happened when I had the idea, and I got to the point where I said, I just can't wait any longer. That's why I started the experiment on such a random date, April 3rd. So being in the place where you're going, I just can't wait any longer, is actually a really good place to be. That leads me to my second lesson, which are unexpected ways to tell that you might be ready to take action as well. So if you're in the place where you're just going,
I hate my life, I can't do it anymore, I hate feeling this way.
Those are all examples that you're in a place where you might actually be ready to take action because you've gotten to the point where it's more uncomfortable in your current circumstances than it is to take the uncomfortable action steps. Now, the next thing I noticed, unfortunately, is that every time I took action, it was scary. It basically never felt good. Maybe I felt good afterward, but I couldn't even necessarily count on that. Basically, before and during taking action, I was filled with this anxious, nervous, excited energy. This is what I'm calling ready energy. I heard this from a friend, and it's actually a good sign. What helped me to remind myself of is that it is supposed to feel this way. It's supposed to feel this way when you take scary action steps, when you get out of your comfort zone, when you do something you've been avoiding. That is normal. That is how it's supposed to feel. And that leads me to my next lesson, which is that taking these action steps can be accompanied with very high highs and very low lows. It's pretty much an emotional roller coaster. It's super annoying and exhausting, but again, it's a sign that you're on the right track. So, for example, the way that this showed up for me around the first YouTube video was that I had this inspired idea for the entire video. It just came to me. And so I said to myself, okay, I'm not going to wait. I'm doing it today. And then right after I started thinking about actually filming it, my mind was telling me,
no, wait.
actually, I think you need a plan. I think we need to organize this a little better. We should probably like write a script or something. But no, I decided I was going to do it that day. And the things I did to help myself were I took like a nice long shower to calm myself down. And then when I sat down to record the video, I put a hand on my heart, took a deep breath, and said, "You're okay. We've got this." And then I did it. But while recording and even after, I still felt terrible. My mind was telling me that I needed to refilm the video, and I had this pit in my stomach when I thought about editing the video. But then when I got to it, I actually was really proud and I had a lot of fun with it. So this is the way that our mind can play tricks on us. It is an example of that ready energy and the things that come up when you take the action. I wanted to share that so that you know to expect those voices and those feelings and know that it's just your nervous system or your subconscious mind or your ego or whatever you want to call it trying to keep you safe and where you are, and it's not actually something to listen to. This leads me to the next lesson, which is while it might not feel good to take the action during or just after, it does eventually feel good to have taken action. Like with my first YouTube video, when I finally put it out there, I still didn't feel good at first, and I was telling myself I made this big mistake and that I should take it back down. Maybe I don't want to do YouTube after all. All of these things were coming up for like a good day and a half, until finally I started to feel really good and proud of myself for putting it out there. And of course, it helped that I started getting some really nice comments from people that genuinely motivate me so much to keep going and remind me why it is that I'm doing all of this. So eventually it will feel good, and you'll look back and you'll be so proud of yourself that you did it. Now, the last one I know you've probably heard before, and I had too, but it still took me by surprise in practice a couple of times, which is that whatever it is that you want to do that feels really big or scary or that you've been avoiding, it's probably easier, faster, and more fun than you think it's going to be. That was definitely the case with editing the first YouTube video. I thought I was going to hate it, and then I ended up loving learning something new and had such a blast with it. And the same thing happened when I was going over my data for the last month. I had been avoiding that for some reason, but as soon as I started, it was so interesting. I learned a ton, and I had so much fun with it. All right, moving on to part 2 about the things that actually helped me to get started. First, act right away if you can when you have one of those like inspired ideas and you feel excited about it before you allow yourself time to overthink. Like if I give myself time to second guess and create excuses and reasons not to do it, I will do it. So don't allow yourself that chance. Next, approach things with curiosity. When it came to booking my trip to Bali, it's something I'd been thinking about forever and avoiding until one morning I went, what if I just check to see? I'm not going to book anything today, but what if I just look to see if there are any spots left? And I found that not only did they have spots left, but they were doing a 20% off flash sale. So I said to myself, if that's not a sign, I don't know what is. And I did end up putting down the deposit that day for the trip. So I think approaching it with curiosity and taking the pressure off and telling myself, I'm not even going to do it, I'm just going to look at it, really helped with that. The same thing happened when I was planning out the summer manifestation challenge for my group. I thought, I wonder if I can plan this all out today and share it tomorrow. Let's see if I can. The next tip, it is to learn what your fear sounds or looks like and how to work with it instead of letting your mind run wild and keep you from doing the things that you want to do. For me, the way I've done this is doing my daily observations and tracking everything I do and I think, and this can take a little bit of time and work, but if you did it even for a week, I'm pretty sure you would start to see some very clear patterns. For me, fear looks like confusion and overwhelm. When my mind starts doing the spiraling thing going,
but I don't know how I'm going to do that, and I need to figure out how to do that, and I have to have a plan for everything first.
Now, whenever that happens, I recognize it and I know, okay, this is a sign to step back. This is a sign that my nervous system is dysregulated and that I need to come back to it at a different time. I'm going to do a longer video about how not to let your mind win on these things, because that's really the heart of what stops us from doing what we want to do generally is ourselves. But you can get started with those steps of tracking what you do and what you think, and you'll start to notice what helped you to take action or what stopped you from it. So you start to become very aware of that, and kind of like you would prepare for a job interview and anticipating the types of questions they'll ask and what you're going to answer them with, you can anticipate what your fear is going to sound like and how you're going to react to it. The next thing that helped was to take notice of when fear or procrastination were masquerading as something else. For me, this came up around the first YouTube video. I was really scared to put it out there, and what was masquerading as preparedness was actually fear. So I had told myself that I didn't want to post the first YouTube video until I had the second YouTube video prepped, filmed, and ready to go. Otherwise, I was going to feel rushed and behind. I was setting myself up for failure, and I had all these reasons that were really logical around why I should have the second video done before I post the first. But then, guess what I was procrastinating on? The second video. Even when I had the first video basically done, I was not getting myself to work on the second one. So this is something that often looks or sounds like, I will do X when I do Y, basically creating conditions of things that you have to do first. So notice for yourself when your fear might be disguised and packaged up in a very pretty and logical way as something else. The next thing I learned that helped me was to create some pressure and or a reason to get things done. This could be a deadline, but like I said, that doesn't always help when you're just trying to get the ball rolling. But there are other ways you can do it. So the way I created pressure, even in my first YouTube video, was by putting the date in the video. And I kicked myself for doing that so many times in a good way. But that kept me to a certain timeline. It wasn't the timeline I originally intended, but I at least told myself I have to do this within the same month. So finally, at the very end of April, I did post the video. But even still, I didn't do it on my own. I created some pressure by telling a friend, my accountability buddy, that I wanted to do it this week and that she had to hold me to it. You don't have to have an accountability buddy to do this. You could tell any friend that you feel is supportive of your goals and will hold you to it. Another way to create like a reason to get it done is to create some sort of a deadline or pressure, only if that works for you and isn't going to keep you from taking action, of course. This worked for me when I decided to put out my summer manifestation challenge and present it to my Manifestation Besties community. Last weekend on Saturday, I decided that I wanted to share it with my group by the following day at our meeting on Sunday. That really held me to the goal, and I stayed up until almost 4 in the morning building my whole website in a day and planning out the entire challenge. But these are things that I had procrastinated on for so many months, and then suddenly I was able to just get them done within a day. Look at that. The next lesson was a really, really big one that helped me so much, and the lesson is that there are no rules. You can do the thing that you want to do however you want to do it. I don't care how anybody else did it. I don't care what other people tell you to do. You can do it however works for you and in whatever way gets you started. So at first I wanted to have a plan for all the different things that I wanted to do, and people will tell you if you're going to do a podcast that you also have to have social media. You've got to have an Instagram and a TikTok, and you've got to do this and that. But you really don't. There are seriously no rules. You can do it in your own way. And this is honestly liberating. A way that I'm applying this to the podcast, for example, is to remove whatever thing is most standing in your way and keeping you from getting the thing done. So for me, for the podcast, that's the first episode. I've really been getting in my head and struggling with how to describe it and putting that into words. So I have given myself permission to start in the middle. Going forward, whenever I have an inspired idea for a podcast episode, I'm just going to sit down and record it and do it right then and there. I don't care about the first episode right now. I can start wherever the heck I want to. And that's liberating. I also, even if platforms are pushing video podcast episodes, I don't have to do that. I can just sit down with a microphone and pretend like I'm talking to a friend, and that feels much more comfortable right now and at least gets me started. So think about whatever it is that's currently in your way, and if you can remove it or break it up in some way that makes it less intimidating. And a helpful question to think about when you're considering this is, what is the bare minimum I can do to get started? Again, going back to the summer manifestation challenge, I had done all of those things with the website and the page, but I hadn't figured out how to set up the payment stuff on my website yet, and it was going to take more time than I had. So I almost backed out and said, you know what, I got way farther than I thought I was going to. I am proud of myself. I can tell them about it another time. And then I went, no, I did not get this far just to get this far. And I asked myself what the bare minimum thing is I can do to get started. And I realized I already have this meetup community and they have a payment option. It's kind of limited, it's only through PayPal, but it gets me started. And I told myself I can set up the payment stuff afterward, which is exactly what I did. But I think we get so in our heads about what it's supposed to look like and how we want it to have all the bells and whistles, but that's not what needs to be. What is the bare minimum? Where can you get started? Now, the final tip I have based off of what I learned is to take the pressure off. And the way you can do that is by giving yourself permission to focus on just one thing at a time. I hate saying this because I have always believed that you can not only do all the things, but you can do all the things at once too. And I do still believe that. However, with the caveat that you can't start them all at once, or at least you're not setting yourself up for success if you do, because if you're trying to do all the things at once, then it's hard to know what to focus on, and you're not actually building sustainable habits. So I had been spiraling about where to start, YouTube, the podcast, whatever, and I realized YouTube is the one that I have the clearest idea of right now, even if it's not what I'm most passionate about. I know what I want to do on YouTube, I want to talk about the experiment, and that gives me a clear starting point. So I gave myself permission to let go of and forget everything else except for YouTube right now. And this was honestly such a huge weight off of me. And paradoxically, it actually gives you so many ideas for the other things that you want to work on, because once you take that pressure off, your mind can think creatively again. The day after I took that pressure off and said, I'm just focusing on YouTube, then all of a sudden I had all these podcast episode ideas coming to me. I had a whole plan for where to start with my multicultural fashion idea. And it's funny because I had been so confused for the longest time about where to start and what I wanted to say. And as soon as I let those not be the priority, that's when everything came up. So it really does help if you let yourself focus on one thing, and then you can use that paradox to your advantage and let things come to you for all of the other things, and then slowly add those in as you get more comfortable with the thing that you started with. So once I get comfortable with YouTube, I'm going to add in the podcast, and then social media, and then all of these other things. And as someone with ADHD, someone with multiple ideas and passions, this was really hard to do. I fought it for the longest time, but what I learned is that it actually feels good to focus on one thing. I thought that I would feel like I was leaving everything else behind and that I would feel bad about not making progress toward them, but actually starting with one thing gave me more confidence in my ability to do all of the other things, because it showed me I am an action taker, I am a woman of my word, I can do what I say I want to do, and with each action step I take, I'm building up evidence that I can do all of the other things too. So it doesn't feel like you're neglecting the other things because you know you're going to get there. It's actually a really amazing feeling. Now this actually leads me to the final lesson that I wanted to share, which is that action leads to belief. So in the manifestation community and self-development world, you often hear how you're supposed to believe in the vision first and get all excited about it and then manifest it into reality. That is true, but for me personally, whenever I thought about the big vision without having backed it up with any action, it actually had the opposite effect of exciting me, and instead it started feeling really overwhelming. My nervous system started to go into a dysregulated freeze state because it just felt too big and too far away. But with each little action step that you take, you are building confidence in yourself. You're showing yourself that you can do it. So it's funny looking back through my observations, I saw myself multiple times say things like, I don't know how I'm going to get there. I need to just believe. I need to take this experiment more seriously. But telling myself to do those things wasn't working. But showing myself through action worked. And looking back at what I said, where I was just fed up with my situation and I didn't want to live that way anymore when it came to money and my living situation, now looking at it, I go, I know a year from now it's not going to be that way anymore. Why? Because I've started. So I hope all of these tips helped. Don't forget to watch my first video if you want to know more about the experiment and how I set it up. Alright, now I know this video is all about taking action, but I just want you to know if you're struggling with that and if you can't seem to get yourself to do it, that's okay. I see you, I know how hard you're working, even if it doesn't feel like it, and I am proud of you, and you are doing so much more than you think. So keep at it and just know that things will come together, and I believe in you. Thank you so much for watching. Have a beautiful day.